Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the Daily Medicine Transmission for Friday, March 12th, 2021. Man, March is going to go. It's going to be over before you feel like it's even started. So welcome. Happy Friday. This is the Daily Medicine Transmission. We have our moon in Pisces. And guess what? Tomorrow is the next new moon in Pisces. It's going to be at 5:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So very early in the morning, very late at night, depending on where you are, we're going to have our new moon in Pisces. So today's transmission is really about what it means to surrender. And I have a couple stories to tell as usual, because it's our personal experience that tends to be the best teachers of just about anything, right? I mean, we can learn a lot of information and recite it, and use the technique. It's kind of like I used to be a music student. That was my original trajectory long ago, was as a musician. And I think it was Charlie Parker, but it really just applies to anybody and just about anything that you do. But, you put all the time into learning your scales. That's a big one. Learning your scales, learning the technique, only to forget all about it when it's time to come and create. And it's kind of the same thing for anything that you do. You put the time into learning the technique, learning the technical aspects, just like with astrology too, for instance. You learn all of the technique and the aspects and the knowledge, right? So that when it's time to perform the art and to engage in the creative process, you have those as the undertone of everything you're trying to create, but you're not actively passing off that technique or that knowledge as the creation, as the art form. And so it is our experience that tends to be the best teacher, but we can build on those experiences and on our ability to interact with those experiences through the knowledge base that we accumulate through our consistent learning, and practice. That's another thing. You have to practice and practice and practice. And when we're talking about our spiritual progression, we're talking about emotional well-being, the practice of actual techniques can be a little bit elusive. It's not as clear cut and specific as like practicing your scales every day, but it is still a practice. And yesterday was definitely a practice, and I certainly need these transmissions as much as everybody else. And I'm very grateful to be able to at least get into a space where they come through me and I can channel them, because they're just as helpful to me as other people. So I hope everybody is doing well. This moon in Pisces, the dark moon in Pisces, has been a real challenge to really know where we end and other things begin. And yesterday, it just intensely emotional, right? Just so many emotions. The fullness of being empathic with a moon in Pisces, especially a dark moon, because it's so subconscious and it's so deep and so difficult to really see, what actually is going on. And we're just in the feeling state of it. Yesterday, I have to tell you, it's, I went out and I did all this physical labor. And boy, oh boy, it was just every victimhood narrative that I could imagine was just coming to the surface. Every poor me aspect that wanted to creep into my consciousness was just sitting there, right there. And I'm just like digging this gravel and shoving it into this trench, and it's raining and I'm like crying and raging at the same time. And all I could think of is like views of the ego. Kept trying to bring it back around to that, look at the lens, look at what lens I am experiencing all of these emotions through, and all of these internal narratives through my own ego. And it took, most of yesterday and just being very focused on materially what I was doing, letting the process unfold naturally, not attaching as much as I could, not attaching to any one set of emotions. And not to say that these emotions are not important. They're signposts, they're indicators of what is going on when we look at them deeper, but not to attach my own identity and sense of self to each of these emotions. So just kept going on and on. And there was a couple times that I had to redo what I was doing because it's a new process to me in terms of, the physical thing I was doing. And that just triggered even more of that victim and helplessness and all of that stuff. And eventually once I had to go back and do it over a couple times, but then once I got it down, then it moved a lot smoother. And it's interesting that my perspective started to move smoother as well. And I started to get, a clearer picture. And this is eventually you do have to surrender yourself to something more than just your egoic structure in order to really make this breakthrough. And surrendering doesn't mean you give your power away to any one person, any group of people. There's only one thing you should be surrendering to, and that is your higher self, source, divine, God, however you characterize that. That's where you really want to surrender yourself. And so another good example of this that I want to share with you, because it actually directly connects to the imagery that I used for today's transmission with the thumbnail and the opening credits and whatever you want to call it, is that years and years and years ago when I did my first Lakota sweat lodge, I had no idea what I was getting into. I had a very basic idea, but I had really no idea what I was about to step into. And I was very fortunate to be guided very seemingly randomly into a group of elder women who did this on a regular basis on a woman's land. And it was a really powerful experience just for me in general, but it was also a very powerful experience for the entire group. Very intense for those people, those women that were doing it on a monthly basis. Even for them, this particular experience was very, very powerful. I had no idea. I had no benchmark whatsoever to understand how intense this experience was. But at one point, and I was alone. I didn't know any of these people. I was, like 22 years old, just showing up and be like, all right, I'm going to do this sweat lodge. And I did make it through the whole event, the whole ceremony, which was just incredible and really scary in a lot of ways. Because there was one point where about halfway through, I really was wondering if I was going to live through that experience and instead of leaving, which I could have done, there were some other people that were just like, oh, hell no, I'm getting out of here. It was so hot and so intense. But what I did was I went into child's pose and I literally sunk down into the earth. And it was one of the first times I can remember that I prayed to and interacted with the planet as a sentient being, as an actual mother figure to hold me and to guide me through the experience. And then by the time we were finished, I'd realized that the session was unusually powerful, even for these regulars and these elder women. And so, but it humbled me to the point where I had to let it all go. And I literally got down on the ground in child's pose in a prostrate kind of position, right? And gave myself over to the experience. And that's really what the concept of surrender means. And so as we are finishing this lunar cycle and the moon is in Pisces, which is very much about the surrender to the flow, surrender to divine source, surrender to the entire experience, we may have found ourselves brought to this point, right? This precipice where we have to just let go. And because we and our egos, our mind, we can't actually take the step that we need to take in that way with our minds, within our ego. We have to just let go kneel down and surrender. And if we are able to do that, as we're going to see through this with the reading today, there is such a new point of reference that is at the center of this energy. And in fact, it is setting us up for the cycle to, obviously with the end of the lunar cycle, right? We're wrapping up this lunar cycle with the new moon in Aquarius, about to step into the new lunar cycle, about to step into the next season, the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the autumn equinox in the southern hemisphere. This is a culmination and consummation point, regardless of where you find yourself on the planet. It is a new position. And in Pisces, we have to let go and completely surrender. It is that hanged man moment. And so being in child's pose is this way of giving ourselves over to that which we trust to guide us through to the next phase. And many of us are struggling with whatever we're struggling with. And the Tower moment just 2 days ago was a big part of that. Because even in the midst of that happening, even if we are responsible for setting everything up and it comes tumbling down, we still have to surrender to that process as well. So there is a lot of letting go today, and has been for a while, but there's an innocence here about it, and there's a complete surrendering of ourselves to the process if we want to come out of it into this next phase fully and present, and letting go of everything that's not going to come back into this cycle with us, this next new cycle. So I want to look at the astrology just a little bit, because it's not that incredible necessarily. Here we go. For today, because like I said, we are rounding things up. Now we have all of this Pisces energy. Again, it's about surrender. It is about letting go. It is about emerging into the collective unconscious. And this, it's just been so difficult, and so emotional. You know, if you got stuff coming through emotionally, just let it come out. Anger, sadness, whatever. Just let it flow, right? Water is not meant to be stagnant. Pisces is a water sign. You have the moon in Pisces. It's incredible. And even feeling emotions for other people, other situations, just let it move through you without attaching to it. Again, that's part of the surrender, is like to let it move through you without attaching to any one aspect of it. You don't have to identify yourself with any of it. You know, you can just let it flow through you and cleanse you at the same time. I mean, that is really what you do in a sweat lodge, is this, the use of fire, obviously. And there's really, we have Chiron in Aries, and we have the South Node in Sagittarius, but there ain't a lot of fire otherwise. But you'll see the fire in this reading, I assure you. So, the moon has already been in a sextile with Uranus. We talked about this yesterday. Uranus moving into the next degree of Taurus, really now challenging our ability to find happiness in the darkest of times, to be able to take what we know is coming and bring that into the present moment and let it infuse this present moment. So you remember, this was also the degree. So when the moon is in a sextile, this was a couple hours ago, it was the same degree as the sun at the full moon in Pisces that we just had. So we're revisiting this quickening, right? This quickening moment where we put everything, all we have, into the situation, all that we are into the situation for the collective experience. We add everything we have to this experience. And if we do that, again, the sextile, right? 60-degree angle. This is a harmonious connection that requires our participation. If we can let go of all the superfluous stuff, the stuff that's unnecessary, right? Let it flow through us and move through us, then it will enhance and support this process of getting into being able to bring into the present moment happiness and joy and celebration in the darkest of moments, because we trust that in the darkest of moments there will always be the light that comes back. This is the cycle of nature, and Taurus represents the material cycle of nature, the actual cyclical, seasonal movement of the elements and our rotation around the sun. That in itself is a cycle. So there's this sextile today. It kind of goes back to that culmination point of the full moon. The moon is going to square the nodes today. So that in itself, again, will challenge this concept here of bringing back I just realized that I didn't I just realized that I didn't post any of this on social media, and that distracted me for a hot second. We want to utilize our minds. We want to try to figure things out with our minds and our understanding. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be engaged with each other and communicating and really starting to clarify our own experience, North Node in Gemini here, through sharing of experience, especially kind of this childlike and innocent and playful aspect, these two children interacting with each other. And again, we'll see this on the reading, how important this is. But we're also kind of, as the moon is going to meet all of these points in Pisces, we're each having we're having a personal and a very intuitive connection to, again, surrendering to everything, giving ourselves over to divine source, participating and, giving over ourselves to this experience. And there'll be kind of a practice, a trial run with where the moon is squaring the nodes. So we get kind of a chance today to go through this simulation of what it means to let go and surrender in a tense aspect to the nodes, which is always very, very, very intense and very goal-oriented. The dragon has a very specific trajectory where it's headed. There's going to be kind of a simulation on a personal level with whether or not we can surrender and we can give ourselves to this whole process in a square and intention to, wanting to clarify things, wanting to communicate, or even to anticipate what's going to happen and be able to plan around that. We're going to have to, even with those aspects of our mind, there's still the experience of having to completely give ourselves over to the moment and to the divine plan, whatever that means to us. Even if that is, you don't even have to be religious or necessarily spiritual to just give yourself over to the processes playing out. Your mind can't do everything. But, that I think is a little bit more difficult personally for people who are not spiritual or don't have a spiritual basis at all to wrap their heads around, because they want to wrap their head around all of it. And the moon in Pisces today is really bringing us to this moment of surrendering to this process. Now, the moon is also today is going to meet Venus. And this, by the end of today, will reinforce to us that everything is set for us at the apportioned time. At the right time, we all come to the table, and with those that we are connected to spiritually or biologically, whatever web of energies connects us, at the right time, we will come together. And everything is already set and waiting for us, but we have to trust this. We have to surrender to this process. And this will remind us, the moon meeting Venus, all this very emotional and relationship and oriented energy, and being very sensitive to it and seeing it in our material world. It'll come together. This is very lovely by the end of today. It's almost, we will see what, to a certain extent, we will get some confirmation on some level that everything will be set and waiting for us when the time is right. We just have to get there. Okay, so that is the astrology for today. So let's look at the reading here so that we can Let's go here. Turn that off. All right. Because it's going to be an interesting weekend with a new moon and with the Ides of March being on the 15th. And of course, just on the heels of the equinox. Okay. So there's a lot of newness coming in, and we are finishing up cycles. And Pisces, again, it's all about surrendering. So let's look at the reading first of all. So one thing that came up that just gives me goosebumps is that our animal messages are the exact same in the exact same location. So again, moving our body, attuning ourselves to natural rhythm with our own biological, organic technology, drumming, dancing, exercise, any kind of rhythm that we can get into in our bodies is going to assist us today, as it did yesterday. So keep the momentum going, whatever it is. I personally will continue to be shoveling gravel into a ditch because that is what needs to happen in my life right now. And it is moving energy through my body. It is helping release the toxins, just like the sweat lodge helps release the toxins out of the body so you can make space. Make space for the energy to be renewed in who you are in your body. And then we have the rattlesnake, again, shedding the skin, shedding the identity, the trauma-based lens that we are seeing everything through can only take us so far. And this is why surrendering is so important, because eventually you realize that you can't get any further as long as you continue. And if you do continue to play the victim, be the martyr, think that you're going to save everybody, all of the aspects that go in the 12th house and Pisces, there's no getting past it. This is why the 12th house is the house of bondage, right? Because if you have not dealt with these aspects of you and your relationship to everything else, then it comes back around and you still have to face it. And then it comes back into the new cycle with you. And that is the genetic predisposition that is encased in the seed for the next cycle if you don't manage to come to terms with everything that has transpired. And so again, Pisces, the victimhood and the martyrdom and that victim savior narrative, all of that stuff is so easy to engage with in the Pisces archetype because everything is everything else. And so we really strongly connect to everything else. Not, it's not separate from us. So, but we're shedding that skin, and that is really clear message to keep bringing into the moment today as well as yesterday, because the moon is in Pisces all day. It's not going to move into Aries until tomorrow night. So we still have all day tomorrow into the afternoon and evening with this Pisces moon. And not only is it going to meet the sun in a new moon, the moon's going to meet Neptune, obviously, and Venus is going to meet Neptune. So it's going to be incredibly Neptunian, very beautiful. Again, this opportunity to really feel, I'm getting ahead of myself with the new moon, but just so you understand where things are headed. So, and at the center here today, this Ace of Discs, we talked about this yesterday. When the cycle comes back around with the 10, if we have not learned everything and we are not ready for the cycle to turn over, it's just accumulating more of the same and we are not actually in a flow. So this is showing us that we are now in this moment of planting a new seed, and which is what the new moon is always about, is planting a new seed. So we're at the very end of this lunar cycle and we've gained a lot. So let's go through this one piece at a time, shall we? 9 of Discs. Now, if you see on the reading here, I'm going to go back real quick. You can see that this card, the head of it is facing away. All right. Keep that in mind as we look at this. The 9 of Discs. So we had the 10 of Discs yesterday, reversed. The 9 of Discs, Venus in Virgo, the gain that we have, right? Gathering in the crops, settling down comfortably. We have gained quite a bit already. This is from very much this whole cycle. We've gained so much wisdom. We've gained so much experience, right? What was this new moon about? It was about how to overcome our passions in order to teach and communicate from a place of deep wisdom. We've gained a lot, and it's come through this whole cycle coming into the moment, okay? We can settle comfortably. This can be a health issue as well with Virgo, a healing moment in the body. We've gathered everything in. Venus is sensitive. She's about material reality, what is harmonious and beautiful and what feels good to her. And so in Virgo, it's mutable earth. It's changeable. We participate in the details and making sure everything is where it needs to be. And we've done all of this work, right? The sixth house in Virgo is the works. We've done it all, and now we're pulling it in. But this is very much a whole process that has been happening up to this point. So we have a lot. We've gained a lot, whatever it is. Now, in the present moment, the cycle is now turned over. The Ace of Discs, right? The root of the powers of earth, manifestation, okay? It's the beginning of a new material subject. It's the urge to create. And so even everything we've gained, we can't just hold on to it. It has to be offered back into the stream of consciousness, into the stream of potential, so something new can develop. And that's where we're at right now, is offering and surrendering everything that has come before, everything that we've been responsible for creating, everything that we have worked with others in creating. We gathered it all in. We can kind of enjoy it and settle into it. And now it's time to let it go and to come into a new cycle. This is at the heart of today. As we finish this new lunar cycle, this is the last day, not even 12 hours until, or 24 hours until the new moon. So we are already here ready to plant the seeds of something material, right? This is in the material realm here with the discs or the pentacles, the earth element. So your body, your resources, the nuts and bolts of reality, your actual physical representation of your life. So we're here in this present moment of a new seed, okay? Now, our attention, number 7. So there's our fall from grace. There's that divine intervention, that wild card, the fated meeting. Now, the thing that's interesting about this card is that it could be a new relationship that's coming in. And you can see that time is part of this. Timing is part of this. Timing is part of this. Timing is part of this. Okay. We, on our ego, we want things to happen on a certain timeline to make our ego satisfied and secure. There's no timing except divine timing. And Saturn is kind of relentless right now in Aquarius. It is in a position at a degree that it is forcing us to be real with ourselves and other people. Okay. That is where we're at. So these two people meet. They've already decided their karmic contract to meet at this appropriate time. Remember what I said about the moon and Venus. When it's time, everything is set and ready for us. And Venus is about relationships, and the moon is our emotional landscape. I mean, by the end of today, we will have come to this fated meeting, whatever this is. This can be, like I said, and this can be a current relationship, any kind of relationship, not just romantic or domestic, but a business relationship or partnership or an organization or just your relationship to your mission or your higher self. It could already exist. And this is now the modulation up to the next level, this fated meeting. And so it's bringing a higher, it's expanding on our karmic contracts. And so we've already made the agreement to come at the apportioned time. And this is meant to be in our conscious awareness today. And like I said, with the grouse already here again, it is about our body and being in tune and using rhythm to be in tune with the energy around us, to dance, to drum, to do whatever we do, to do yoga, tai chi, any physical labor, right? Go on a hike, ride your skateboard, whatever it is that gets your body engaged and present, because that is also going to allow your attention to see when this is presented to you, however it's presented. And this could be a generalized thing too, like something that unfolds in the collective as well as something very fated. So it's brought together for our growth. So that's the other thing to consider. It may not be very comfortable, although, it may not be very comfortable, but it's still part of the growth. And that's something to consider as well as, as we move through today. So, and in our awareness, our conscious awareness, at the zenith of our experience is this fated meeting, something coming about that's already been agreed upon. So here is the Five of Roses. This is at the root energetically. So the garden, right? And we talked about surrender. We talked about child's pose, right? And it just occurred to me after how long I've been using this deck that this young boy here has a slingshot. That's what it is. So you are looking at the very standard archetypal Bart Simpson, Lisa Simpson dichotomy here of expression and activation, and then exploration and discovery. She's looking down at the micro, he is aiming at the macro, and there is something to be said for these two things. Now again, the North Node, where it's at right now in Gemini, is about two children talking to each other, sharing their experiences. There's something here about being able to root in emotionally and into our subconscious, really ground and anchor down into this sense of protection, of playfulness, of, again, surrender to some innocence here. Surrender yourself to the process of discovery and playfulness. And with the snake here, again, right, we're shedding a skin. We are transmuting something and allowing this more exploratory and innocent and playful part of ourselves come out, because it is protected. And it is, encapsulated by this beautiful garden. There's a garden wall that is protecting, and it's beautiful, and everything natural within it is something to be explored. And so even within your own reality, in your own physical world, here, there is so much to explore and to discover. But there's a sense here that we have to let go of some other stuff first to even get into this place, right? Which is innocent, which is trusting, which is exploratory and based in discovery, and is the child's pose, surrendering to a certain extent where we are, and that we are being protected, and that we can allow ourselves the ability to be in the garden, whatever that means for us. But it is about grounding down and anchoring energetically into this space, and being innocent and playful and exploratory. So where it's headed, though, which is fascinating to me, this Knight of Wands. So here's our fire, right? So we're in a moment of newness, right? Planting a new seed. We're about to hit this new moon in Pisces, which is about recognizing our Dharma. Now, the Lord of Flame and Lightning, Scorpio into Sagittarius, right? A born leader, someone who is full of ideas, someone who is proud and commanding and noble, right? All of these aspects are meant for us to engage with and to embody when we recognize that we are now planting a new manifestation seed, that we are rooted in a sense of playfulness and innocence, and shedding an old skin so that we can see things in a new way, like a child. And we, in our conscious awareness, see this fated meeting, this wild card energy that is actually very karmic, and is meant to encourage us and instigate our growth, whatever it is. So when we come into this is us, where it's headed, the Knight of Wands, our highest inspirations, our spiritual realizations, our honest, noble, and conscientious focus, very intelligent. When we recognize our Dharma and then come into the moon in Aries by the end of tomorrow, we can really be this born leader as we come into the moon in Aries, because that's going to be a very personal and emotional preview of how this equinox is going to start off, right? And so we get to personally engage with this energy by the end of tomorrow, I would say. So where this is going is setting this new tone with this new moon, and coming into that Aries moon. Once we realize what our Dharma is, we can actually then work towards it. This is finally some lifting, but we have to be willing to surrender everything else that we're going to leave behind, right? And if we keep struggling against it, then it's not really we're going to bring it with us into the next cycle. And so the surrender is really important. So as I said, we have the guidance here. I already showed you the grouse when it comes to the fated meeting, and we are, stay in your body. Stay in your body, stay in your rhythm, stay in the movement, be present, keep moving things around. Surrendering doesn't mean you have to just stop. It just means that you are giving it up to God, whatever that means to you, giving up to source, giving it up to the universe, right? And allowing something so much bigger than each of us to unfold. And if you want to engage with that and feel it, then you have to get into the rhythm of the universe, the natural rhythm, right? The Schumann resonance is starting to peak again, right? The solar weather is just relentless. It's just one stream after another. And so if you want to, again, you got to move it through your body and get into the rhythm of a higher frequency and oscillation, and part of that is engaging in some sort of movement art. So the other thing I want to show you is our good friend, the lookout, right? So the lookout, number 17, look out for a challenging situation or a battle, right? So we know that the Knight of Wands is coming, right? That is that is a warrior in every sense of the word, and a leader. And when it comes to the fated meeting, however this transpires for us, as in a person or an event or a collective event, the guidance here is to have that view from the crow's nest, right? We know that everything is burning up under us, and it's to be able to look out past the situation and see where things are headed so that we can be a conscious participant in this process, okay? Our good friend, the lookout, number 17, being able to see out into the horizon of where we're going next and what to maybe not necessarily expect. I mean, you can expect that this ship is going to burn. That's pretty obvious. We may not know exactly what's going to happen, but we at least have a perspective that allows us to see out beyond the immediate danger that we're in, and so that we can head there. So we have a perspective of where to go. When it comes to, we already looked at the rattlesnake, the experiences, sorry, I have a really itchy nose. The experiences that you're presently going through are initiation into fulfilling your purpose as a healer, a wanderer, starseed, light worker, indigo, whatever. It's initiating all of us into the next stage of humanity, into the age of Aquarius, everything we're going through. So again, shedding the skin, the transmutation of old skins, old lenses, old perspectives need to be let go of so we can take this more innocent, playful approach. And along with that, the Four of Keys. Oh, this is backwards. So, but, you can look at the imagery. It's still the same, which is that there is something in our way. There's an obstruction in our way, and we have all of the tools and the energy to clear it out of the way. But we have to make sure we temper our action with forethought and calm, right? We don't want to just come blazing through, although the Knight of Wands certainly is going to do that when the time is right. This is saying before we get to that point, we have to clear away all of the unnecessary baggage. We have to clear away all the obstructions that keep us from getting home. We have the tools, right? He has an axe. He has the capacity. There's both of them together. So we have the polarity together of masculine and feminine. The masculine energy is going to be the one actualizing, and she's holding the space, and then they go together. So we're clearing away obstructions. We're shedding the skin. We are taking it back down to a more innocent and playful and childlike perspective, and surrendering into child's pose, right? So that we can allow the work of the universe to do what it's meant to do, and our higher self, right? We already made the karmic contracts. That should be the focus of our awareness. This is more about energetically at the root of things, in those root chakra, sacral chakra, the earth star chakra, clearing away the debris, clearing away the obstructions so that we can have a more like I said, a more childlike view of things, and to be more exploratory and discovery and discover things rather than continue to see through the lens of our trauma, right? We got to clear that away so that when we come into the Knight of Wands, we are not on the dark side of things and just burning shit down. We're actually full of ideas, and we're noble and honest, and our energy, or warrior energy, and that moon in Aries is moving towards the highest inspiration and spiritual realizations, not feeling like a victim because we have this obstruction in the way, or burning ourselves out because we're chopping so vigorously and not tempering our energy at all, realizing that this is maybe a very large obstruction. So intense times, my friends. So that, I think, will do it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate every single one of you taking the time to do your work, right? That's what we're all here for as we move through these times, and the initiation into the next phase of humanity is right here in real time. So congratulations if you've made it this far, right? So if you're interested in a reading to learn about your starseed origins, if you are looking for extra support through Reiki or shamanic energy work, you can go to catalystenergies.net and book services through there. You can sign up for the mailing list so that you can get announcements about really cool things coming up, like my presentation on the Redream the World in the Age of Aquarius astrology retreat that's going to be next weekend. It's a free event. It's online. So if you sign up for the mailing list, you'll be able to get the email that has all of those details. And Facebook and Telegram, of course, if you want to reach out and stay in touch through social media. And of course, if you subscribe to this channel, if you hit that like button, either on BitChute or YouTube, wow, it really helps independent content creators like myself who are not monetized, but just trying to get their offerings out into the public view. That would be really helpful. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. It is Friday, so I'll be back on I'll be back on Monday. Whew. I'll be back. I got an Aries in the third house, dude. Sometimes it's just too much coming through all at once. I'll be back on Monday for the Daily Medicine, and we will be talking about the Ides of March. I will be putting out the new moon, the entire monthly astrology, today or tomorrow, and that will be on YouTube and BitChute for you to engage with as well. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Take very good care of yourselves. Don't forget to keep moving your body, and don't forget to, it's all about surrendering to the flow, right? So I'll see you on Monday. Take care. Bye.